Commission has held discussions with the Ghana Police Service.
We have details as all of 9 constituencies. The EC's call on the president to intervene in security matters to ensure safety of its officials.
Humbly call on the President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as well as our President-elect, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to intervene in this matter so as to ensure that the Commission provided with the necessary security and protection.
This is Top Story, as always, brought to you by TCL, connecting energies and holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. My name is Samuel Kojo. Now, tonight, the Electoral Commission is, despite court actions by the NDC to prevent Re-Collation, it's serving notice that it is expanding Re-Collation to 9 constituencies, citing physical assault, death threat to staff, among others, as reasons for annulling the electoral results. Now, at a news conference earlier to address issues concerning the results of some outstanding constituencies, Chairperson of the EC, Jean Mensah, says Re-Collated results of 3 constituencies, Suhum, Akwatia, and Fantiako North, will be accepted. First, listen to Jean Mensah raise concerns over the chaotic situations that surrounded the coalition, including the assault of its staff.
The presence of hundreds of supporters who besieged our collation centers brought proceedings to a standstill in a number of the centers. These supporters destroyed pink sheets required for the collation, as well as results collation forms in some areas. In some instances, they vandalized and destroyed the desktop computers set up to collate the results electronically. Additionally, and sadly, they beat up our staff and threatened them with death, and ultimately brought proceedings at the constituency collation centers to a halt. Citizens of Ghana, this is the reason why the collation in some constituencies could not be completed prior to the declaration of the presidential results. It is important to emphasize that the collation in all centers were proceeding in accordance to lay down guidelines as enshrined in CI 127 before the supporters entered into our constituency collation centers. There was therefore no reason or justification for the call to supporters to besiege the collation centers. That call, in the view of the Commission, was calculated to disrupt the processes and mar the seamless and effortless electoral processes that had commenced from the start of the polls at 7 a.m. that Saturday, the 7th of December 2024. We have been faced with resistance, threats, intimidation, and the destruction of our properties. Our staff have been threatened, and the established collation processes, as guided by law, have been disrupted, and winners have been declared without due processes governing collation being followed. In a number of instances, our staff have been threatened with death and forced to declare outcomes without adhering to the processes governing collation. It is instructive to note that the Electoral Commission has held discussions with the Ghana Police Service.
Well, let's try and do a breakdown of these 9 constituencies in question, because some of them are not part of the 5 Re-Collated last week. Now, what are the unique cases? My colleague James Aveji has been at the EC and joins me in the studio now. So, James, what do we know about these 9 constituencies?
Well, Brace, let me run you through this 9, and then we'll do the case-by-case breakdown of them. They consist in Sawame Dwejiri constituency, Ahafo Southwest constituency, Ahafo North, Obuasi East, Okaikwe Central, Ablekuma North, Tema Central, Techiman South, and Dom Kwabinya constituency. Now, we know that in some cases, some of the coalitions didn't end at the constituencies on the 8th of December due to some chaos. As far as some are concerned, the attempted re-coalition, the results have been declared, but the EC is involving them. For those that have ended at the constituency level, which there was no attempt for re-coalition, include Ahafo Southwest, Ahafo North, Obuasi East, as well as Techiman South. For those four, there was no attempt for re-coalition. Now, you remember that here in Accra, there has been two attempts. One involves the re-coalition of Okaikwe Central and Ablikman North at the EC's Greater Accra Regional Office, which were concluded some way, and then the result declared the NDC candidate for these two constituencies emerging winners of that. And then we had a situation where there was re-coalition of some other four, including Akwetia Suhum and Fantiakwa and Nsawam Idwejiri constituency at the police training school.
Here in Tasano.
Exactly. 3 have been concluded and it went in favor of the NPP, and Nsawam Idwejiri was not completed. In the case of Tema Central and Dom Kwabenya, the coalition ended at the coalition centers on the 8th of December 2024. The results have been declared, the two have been declared in favor of the NDC. But the EC has been underlining, taking all of these 9 constituencies one after the other and explaining, amongst other reasons, the fact that all the polling stations have not been considered, and the fact that some of the results were declared with the returning officers being compelled to do so. They do a case-by-case analysis. We can listen to the EC chair give some of those reasons.
In Nsawam Idwejiri, where parties, of course, on election day besieged the collation centers and brought the collation there to a halt. As I mentioned, the commission tried to complete the collation process on Friday, the 13th of December. However, when it got to 143, the collation for 143 polling stations, there was an agreement that they should put it on hold until the following day. Sadly, that following day was not to be, and the collation was called off because we were informed by the police service that supporters of the parties were planning to besiege the police depot and to cause disruptions at the center, and we were advised to put it on hold. And so that collation is incomplete and we cannot declare an outcome. I must note that in the Ahafo Southwest and in the Ahafo North, as the collation on election day was also disrupted and no winners were declared. Those processes were incomplete, and until they are complete, the commission will not be in the position to declare a winner. In Obuasi East, the collation center was attacked by party supporters, and the returning officer was threatened with an axe. His hands were lifted up, and he was asked to declare a winner when that was not what was reflected on the results collation form. Again, that process was not lawful, and the commission would not uphold it. In the Okaikwe Central, I did mention that 110 polling stations results were used to declare a winner instead of 141. The commission would not uphold that process. In the Ablekuma North constituency, 219 polling station results were used to declare a winner instead of 281 polling station results. The commission would not uphold that declaration. In Tema Central, the DEO again was threatened, and he was forced to declare results using 146 polling stations instead of 148. The commission would not uphold that declaration. In Bono East, the officer was physically assaulted. Sorry, in Bono East, in Techiman South, in the Bono East region, the officer, the returning officer, and other staff were physically assaulted and forced to redeclare the results at gunpoint. The commission, it's important to note that the collation process had not been completed. There also, the commission would not uphold those processes. In Domi Kwabenya, there's some contention with 3 polling station results, and the commission is carrying out its own investigation with the 3 polling station results. I believe 367 of those results have been duly declared as legitimate. There are 3 results that are outstanding, and the commission is carrying out its own investigations to allow it, to enable it take a decision.
So that's the EC on these 9 constituencies in question. Now, we know that there are about 2 cases in court as we speak involving some of these constituencies that are part of these 9 that the EC cites. What was the position of the EC on this matter?
The EC has remained silent about the court cases. In fact, we wanted to put that to them when they addressed all of these issues, but they said they were not taking any questions. Our interest was to know whether they would have to wait until the cases in court are completed before they go ahead with the coalition, because as you know, what the NPP is seeking in court, which is to fast track the Re-Collation process, is what the EC themselves want to do. And so it will just be fair to know whether they will wait for that to happen or they will go ahead while the case in court is also being attended to. And so they've not been able to give us any clear-cut way as to what role the court cases will play in their Re-Collation.
Well, but the EC itself has some safety concerns ahead of this Re-Collation they want to do.
This is coming at the back of what we experienced at Greater Accra Re-Collation as well as the police depot. The EC chair is calling on the sitting president, the president-elect, as well as the National Election Security Task Force to provide some safe haven for them to do the Re-Collation.
We therefore use this occasion to humbly call on the President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as well as our President-elect, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to intervene in this matter so as to ensure that the Commission is provided with the necessary security and protection to carry out its functions. We also call on the National Election Security Task Force to come together to put in place arrangements to ensure that our staff and our processes are protected and secured in a way that will ensure that the true outcomes of our processes reflect the will of the people as expressed on the pink sheets.
So that is the EC chair on this particular matter. Let's bring in lawyer Edwidji Tamak, Director of Legal of the NDC. Grateful to you, sir, for joining us here. Now, you served some notice some days back, staying off the EC's hands on these matters. The EC today says we are ready to start recollating of 9 constituencies, including the 5 that you took to court. What's your view on this?
Okay, so good evening to your cherished viewers online and your listeners. I must say that Madame Jedmesa and her other commissioners have turned themselves to the law or either above the law and have decided to do whatever pleases them. I strongly believe that in a democratic arrangement as we have it, it is the law that must have its way. 1st July 2020, Madame Jedmesa, under her hand, created what is now called the Public Elections Regulations 2020 CI 127. CI 127 is supposed to govern the conduct of both presidential and parliamentary elections. It's instructive to note that a reading of Regulation 2 and Regulation 3 is to the effect that for parliamentary election, the person close with the authority and mandate to make a declaration and to collate results for parliamentary election determined within a constituency is the returning officer. What I have before me is the returning officers of the constituencies comprising Obuasi East, Ablekuma North, Okankwe Central, Tema Central, Domekwabenya. The person with lawful mandate to make a declaration of parliamentary elections are the people who made the declaration in respect of these 5 constituencies. Now that declaration having been so made, those officers stand Fontus Ofedo. Not even Jane Mensah, not even Bosman Asare or Samuel Tete have the legal capacity whatsoever to overturn decisions made by the lawful returning officers of these respective constituency. And that is why Madam Jane Mensah would not want to take questions from you journalists. When you go to the Corporate Service Center of the Electoral Commission, it has its motto, transparency, integrity. It is shocking that a commission that has its motto, transparency, will be running away from questions. It is interesting to note. I listened to Madam Jane Mensah make the point that she does not want to set a bad precedent. Madam, you are just not a principled woman. You lack integrity. You lack principle. In 2020, the then minority leader.
But the EC chairperson says the processes at some of these constituencies, the 9 constituencies that they are looking at, were not completed. Now, the same CI 127 enumerates the processes that these have to go through for the declaration to be valid. They say they weren't. Don't you agree with her that because the processes were not completed, then of course she has that room to say we want to complete the process, so let's recollate.
In 2020, Madam Jane Mensah supervised the presidential and parliamentary election. About 8 people were brutally murdered, shot at close range by armed military and police officers in Techiman South. The NDC, led by the minority leader there, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, led a group of NDC MPs to the EC headquarters near the Ridge Hospital. In fact, at the point, the police even said they never had or they never notified them pursuant to the Public Order Act. And for that matter, they were in breach of the law. What was their complaint? That whatever happened in Techiman South, that purported declaration by the officer in Techiman South was improper. It was done at the time when, persons associated with the NDC were brutally gunned down and murdered. Therefore, requested humbly that she recollate the results for Techiman South. Madam Jane Mensah responded to the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, and in paragraph 13 of the said response, indicated clearly that recollation can happen at any stage until declaration. And for that matter, after the results have been declared, there cannot be anything called recollation or recount.
Okay.
And that a person dissatisfied with that declaration, the course of action, and must go to court under pursuant to Article 99 of the Constitution. It does appear that time has exposed the duplicity of Madam Jane Mensah.
Okay, I'm grateful to you.
To allow her to do whatever pleases her. Judicial processes that have been served on her she has the benefit of instructing her lawyers to put up whatever she has said at the press conference today as a defense in the various judicial processes that are pending in our court. But to rather resort to this grandstanding is regrettable and should not be encouraged.
Okay. Stay with me. Let me bring in Richard Ahiaba of the MPP. He is the Director of Communications of the MPP. Rich, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, I mean, the law is clear on that if there is any issue with declaration, the only medium for one to seek clearance or clarification is the court. Why is the EC the one taking it on this? But you are also a party interested in this matter. You don't think the EC is treading on grounds that are not grounded in law?
Well, thank you very much, Kujo. I think the matter is clear. The excessive violence of the NDC operatives on the day of election is completely unacceptable and repugnant. We should say those in very plain and clear terms. Now, you are saying that we should defer to the law court, apparently because somebody decided to use violence to appropriate what is not duly declared as their won seats, because they use violence under duress to force people to make those declarations. Those declarations were not made clear-eyed. Okay? So the remedy is not necessarily the courts. Yes, you can use the court, but the EC is ready. The process is still underway. The way the whole thing happened lends itself to this Re-Collation process because we are following the events. It wasn't after the fact that people identified that these things have been done. They were identified on the very day, and the efforts to correct them started in earnest before the NDC went to court. So the electoral process that created the problem can solve the problem. It's a question of counting and properly counting the numbers. Why would the NDC be opposed to the Re-Collation if they know that they have won? It is just where the accounts have a proverb that says,
okay.
So if this process has engendered this much disagreement, and the only way to resolve it is just count the numbers that are already there, then I don't think that there's any difficulty. There's no dispute that in the matter that the EC cannot resolve. The EC can count the numbers. So if counting the numbers is the problem, then let's go and count the numbers rather than go to court and deal with an abstract things using certain evidences that don't exist, and then it will be a case that will travel the length of 4 years. But right now, the EC can address it. I think I agree with the EC totally.
Okay, all right.
If my brother Edgy, you allowed Edgy a bit more time, so please indulge me.
I mean, you've answered the question I was trying to ask you for. So let me bring in Edgy and ask him one question. Edgy, you have gone to court on this matter. Are you willing, or will you be citing the EC for contempt of court on this particular matter?
First of all, the courts have served us hearing notice to appear before the judge tomorrow for the purposes of moving our judicial review application. My last check, the Electoral Commission is here to respond to the application. I was thinking that the details of this press conference will be put in the form affidavit in opposition, detailing these matters before a court, instead of this grandstanding. As you are aware also, my learned friend, and that's the Director Legal for the NPP, Gary Nimakomafo, had filed various processes in our courts in respect of the same, election. And so one would expect that an Electoral Commission established pursuant to the 1992 Constitution will respect these judicial processes and unveil itself and put matters before the court, rather than, as it were, clothe itself with the power to sit in the comfort of their homes and offices and be declaring. And the danger, the danger is that
I get you, but I wanted a specific answer to this. That will you cite the EC for contempt of court if they go ahead?
I mean, as we are saying, in some of the processes, the Inspector General of Police is a party. is he, Mr. Dampare, or Dr. Dampare, sorry, going to allow, having been made a party to some of this, with pending injunction applications against him, proceed to allow his officers, assigns, and workmen to provide security for such obvious illegal conduct? I want to believe that Dampare has lawyers who advise him on the proper thing to do.
Okay. Grateful to you. Let me bring in Dr. Kwesi, and he's a security analyst, to look at the security aspect. Doc, where did we go wrong? Did something go amiss? And how can we remedy it going into the future?
I think it's most unfortunate that there seems to be a split in the front of the the Election Security Task Force and the Electoral Commission in terms of this Re-Collation. Look, every single constituency in Ghana deserves an MP elected based on the ballots cast, counted, signed off. But there are times when there are contestations about the processes leading to the declaration of a victor. And I think we are experiencing a few such cases. Probably out of the 9, I think 3 have been resolved, so remaining 6. I've heard criticisms and exchanges between the EC and the Election Security Task Force. That is most unfortunate and uncalled for. I think the partnership has resulted in a fairly satisfactory process and an outcome. But tensions are rising in those 6 remaining constituencies. And I think 5th columnists are being buzzed into those constituencies. That makes even the Re-Collation exercise much more difficult, although the boxes, from what I hear, are at the Tesano police station. And I think probably it's time for us to take a step back and to ensure that other institutions, Peace Council, the Christian Council of Churches, and the Islamic groups, to help douse the tensions so that the processes can go on.
Okay. Grateful to you, Professor Kwesi, and he is a security analyst. This has been Top Story. Coming up next is Newsnight.